Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, doomsday cult leader Paul Mackenzie appears in court along with dozens of his followers charged with murdering 191 children. 429 members of his sect were unearthed from shallow graves last year, and he and his co-defendants face mental health assessments. Also, Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga says that the rise in femicides in the country is a national emergency. A Mozambican's been arrested over the brutal killing of a student over the weekend, the second such high-profile murder this month. And DR Congo's capital still inundated with water after the banks of the Congo River burst. Hundreds of people have been forced from their homes in the worst flooding the city's seen in decades. But first, the pastor of a notorious doomsday cult in Kenya and 30 members of his self-declared church were in court on Wednesday to face charges of murdering 191 children. Paul Mackenzie appeared before High Court judges in the town of Malindi 8 months after he was arrested in connection to the deaths of over 400 of his followers. Most were found in shallow graves, appearing to have died from strangulation, starvation, or suffocation. Prosecutors have asked for the defendants to undergo mental assessments. Curry's Fortuné with more.
These are the grim images that shocked the nation. Bodies after bodies being dug up from mass grave sites. More than 400 people found in the Shakahola forest in Kilifi County in the southeast of Kenya. Autopsies revealed the majority of the victims died of hunger. Others, including children, appeared to have been strangled, beaten or suffocated. The main suspect, Paul Mackenzie, a cult leader, and his Good News International Church. He was arrested last April for allegedly telling his members to prepare for the end of the world. People were given instructions to begin fasting so that they could get to heaven. The self-proclaimed pastor denied responsibility for the death. Kenyan prosecutors says they have enough evidence to charge him, along with 94 of the defendants, with offences including murder and terrorism. But the court declared this Wednesday it needed first to establish if the defendants were fit to stand trial.
Accordingly, I direct that 1, all accused persons do undergo psychiatric assessment to ascertain their fitness to take plea. 2, medical attention and care to be availed to the 4th accused person and any other accused person who is unwell at the prison at which they are held.
Mackenzie and some of his co-accused mental health assessment is to be presented on February 6th. What has been dubbed the Shakahola forest massacre prompted the government to flag the need for tighter control of fringe denominations. A largely Christian nation, Kenya has struggled to regulate unscrupulous cults. There are more than 4,000 churches registered in the East African country of 53 million people.
A Mozambican man has been arrested in Kenya over the murder and mutilation of a 20-year-old woman in Nairobi. Rita Waini's dismembered body was found on Sunday after a killer sent messages from her phone demanding a ransom from her family. It's believed that she had already been killed. The suspect was detained as he tried to leave the country on Tuesday. Now, Rita's murder was the second such high-profile femicide in Kenya at a short-term rental this month alone. Socialite starlet Wahoo was killed in the first week of the month. The deaths have raised awareness of the extent of the violence faced by women in the country. Our Olivia Bizu tells us more.
Many of the Kenyans that I've spoken to have expressed their anger over the recent murders and especially over the ways in which they were committed. One of the women was dismembered and the remains of her body were stuffed into a plastic bag. The Federation of Female Lawyers has condemned the murders, and the head of the opposition, Raila Odinga, has said that a state of emergency should be declared. But President Ruto and the members of his government haven't yet made an announcement, and many say that that silence speaks volumes.
They need to come out clearly to condemn the current situation, because we can't have women or men or even children being killed every other day. We are supposed to have structures that will continuously hold people who commit any heinous crime accountable. So we actually need to have a state of emergency so that we can sit down and have a critical conversation looking at what's happening.
The police is currently investigating these murders, but Kenya doesn't have a great track record when it comes to punishing these types of crimes. Sexual violence is a major issue here in Kenya. According to a national survey published in 2022, at least 34% of women have experienced some form of physical violence. A lot of them also said that instead of being supported, a lot of them were blamed for these crimes and even bullied online.
Olivia Pizzo there for us. Now, 3 people have died and around 80 been injured in a massive blast in Nigeria. Rescue workers have been digging through the rubble in Ibadan city in the southwestern state of Oyo, hoping to find more survivors after Tuesday night's explosion. Preliminary investigations show that the blast was caused by explosives used by illegal miners. Campaigners calling for more accountability from the mining industry say that dynamite is often stored dangerously close to residential areas.
We just heard the sound, and the sound just immediately sounded once. It was resounding. It was so much. In fact, when I looked up, I saw our ceiling. It has removed.
I was just in the house with my kids, and I just saw the POP ceiling and the roof and everything coming down on us. That was the first thing I saw.
In the DR Congo, regional group SADC is deploying troops in the east of the country. Kinshasa says that this force will replace a regional East African force, which recently left after authorities said that it was not making headway in pushing back against rebels that continue to plague the region. Our Emmett Livingston tells us more.
The SADC military force is now on the ground in the city of Goma in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. SADC had already announced that it was going to deploy a force consisting of South African, Malawian and Tanzanian soldiers. But this week, in a first joint communique, a Congolese general alongside a South African SADC commander clarified what role the SADC force would play in eastern DRC.
The mission is offensive. We can't give out the numbers, but these are professionals in their field. They are well equipped and well trained. I've just visited the units, and they're capable of turning the situation around on the ground.
According to a SADC internal document dated December 14th, which we have consulted, the military mission is due to last for an initial 12 months. But it's still unclear whether the force will take the fight to the rebels directly. The mandate says that the force will support the DRC in neutralizing armed groups. But whether that support will take the form of conducting offensive military operations is not mentioned. Several specialists have warned against drawing any firm conclusions, saying to wait and see how the force operates on the ground. The Congolese army statement comes as violence has resumed around Goma, pitting the Congolese military and its allied militias against the M23 rebels, who were backed by the Rwandan army.
Staying in DR Congo, flooding on the Congo River has reached historic levels. Several districts of the capital, Kinshasa, have been submerged by waters that have risen to their highest since 1961. Our team reports.
In the district of Pompage in western Kinshasa, river water has flooded the streets and upended daily life for the city's inhabitants. Here, to get to the other side of the river, locals have swapped their famous motorbike taxis for makeshift boats, known as pirogues. The crossing is not without risks.
We cross with pirogues that seem really risky. If anything goes wrong, you're in the water.
Do you get to work on time?
No, you see, it's already way past the hour. I just have to accept it.
It's been over a month since the Congo River burst its banks, with the waterline rising to about 6.2 meters above sea level. This high water mark hasn't been recorded in the Democratic Republic of Congo since 1961. To survey the extent of the damage the flooding has caused, you have to board a rickety pirogue. Roads in the neighbourhood have turned into rivers, and houses are engulfed in dark, muddy water. Although the Congo River has begun to recede, it's still making life in the city particularly difficult.
The damage is enormous. Here we used to use the roads, but now we can't use them anymore.
Flooding has also affected other provinces in the country. At least 300 people have died nationwide, according to the government.
The country's Waterways Authority says that this exceptional river level rise is a consequence of global warming, but rampant construction is also to blame.
When deforestation occurs, the land becomes drier and drier. As a result, when it rains, the water can no longer seep into the earth, and all this water has only one direction to go in, and that's the river.
The Congo River is due to return to its normal height within a few days. In the meantime, civil society groups are urging the government to launch an emergency plan to help flood victims.
And finally, in the Africa Cup of Nations, Morocco started its tournament campaign in grand style by thrashing Tanzania 3-0. Expectations are high for the Atlas Lions going forward. Meanwhile, DR Congo faced Zambia. That game's currently still underway, 7 minutes into extra time with the score at 1-1. Our Justice Baidu brings us more from Ivory Coast.
Not much of a surprise in the first game of the day today. Morocco on the run to try and live up to the standard that is set for themselves at the last World Cup, being the first African country to reach a World Cup semi-final. They were absolutely dominant in the entire 90 minutes. Tanzania had a red card at some point in the game, but they had failed to make any real impact even before then. It was 3-0 at the end of the 90 minutes. In truth, it could have been more. DR Congo and Zambia are playing in the final match of the day. Many pundits say this is a game of equals. Both teams have only won once in their last 4 encounters. Today's Group F games are being played in the Laurent Pokou Stadium, newly built in the southwestern coast city of San Pedro.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though. Do so again if you can. Till then, take care.